All right, Bulls Nation, we got a lot to catch up on. As you can see, I have a lot of Twitter stuff pulled up here to kind of talk over. But we need to catch up here as there's been a lot of Bulls news going on. I want to get through it all. But welcome back to the TheSlamDuncan YouTube channel. I wish you guys all happy holidays. As you know, I'm looking forward to the Christmas games, even though there's couple stars that aren't playing, unfortunately. But this is just kind of recapping what's been happening with the Bulls recently. There's been a lot going on. So I wanted to kind of just go through it all, kind of give you my thoughts on it, and look forward to the Bulls hopefully playing fully healthy and not having to deal with COVID anymore. But before we get into it all, make sure you hit that like button if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Let's talk about the most recent news, which came out today, unfortunately, and that's Billy Donovan has entered the health and safety protocols. So right when the Bulls think that they're done with it all, their coach goes into health and safety protocols. Now, Chris Fleming's going to be serving as the acting head coach. And Chris Fleming is a person that stayed on this staff. He was on the Boylan staff, and then he stayed on this staff when Donovan took over. I think he was one of the few people that stayed. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of Chris Fleming. There's nothing that he's really done that makes me upset, but I heard that he was in charge of the offense when Boylan was the head coach, and as we all know, that offense was awful. So I hope that's not the case. I that's just the rumor that I heard, but I hope that's not true. He's done, I think, really well since Donovan has taken over, so I hope that continues as he serves as interim head coach. But all the best to Billy Donovan as he is now in health and safety protocols. And hopefully he tests out of it. That'd be really good if he can do that. But if we can't, then we're gonna be without our head coach for a little bit. But I honestly have full faith in this assistant coaching staff. I mean, we have Mo Cheeks on that on the staff as well, and I really trust him. So even though he's not going to be the head coach, I trust our assistant staff a lot. They've done pretty well since Billy Donovan has gotten here, so I, have full faith in them to do their job while Billy Donovan is not with the team. So Chris Fleming's going to be the man in charge, and hopefully he coaches well for this team and just kind of does what Billy Donovan does. The main thing I'm looking for is just keep Levine and DeRozan staggered as Donovan does usually. So bad news, unfortunately, and we're starting with the bad news, but Chris Fleming will be the head coach until further notice, until Donovan gets back or tests out of it. So there's the first initial news, but I want to talk about yesterday, which was a good day for Chicago Bulls fans as the Bulls were able to practice yesterday, and Donovan had a little press conference, and he said that everyone is out of protocols. So the last people that were in protocols, they are officially out. So a lot of people were asking about Io. Yeah, Io is out. So everyone that was in protocols, including Zach LaVine, they are out of protocols officially. So no more players have to deal with being in the health and safety protocols. Devon Dotson recently did test positive and was placed in health and safety protocols, but then he tested out of it. So there are no players currently on this Bulls roster that is dealing with the health and safety protocols. So that's really good to know. But as you see right here, the Bulls were without two people, and that's Alex Caruso and Derrick Jones Jr. So Caruso just got healthy after dealing with a hamstring injury, and the little break allowed him to actually fully heal that hamstring injury. But then now apparently he has hurt his foot. It was a left foot sprain. He's going to be out for 7 to 10 days. Honestly, I think Caruso is probably going to be coming back more towards the 7 days than the 10. He heals pretty quickly because he healed with that hamstring pretty quickly. So I'd be shocked if it's longer than the 7 to 10 days. So potentially him playing against the Pacers on the 26th, but we'll see. But either way, though, we need Caruso healthy. And obviously this isn't COVID, but the thing is that, Caruso now has had to deal with 2 injuries. And as a guy that, throws himself on the floor a lot, a guy that hustles a lot and is willing to take, or really get into his get into the opposing team, it's kind of obvious that he's gonna have to deal with some of this stuff, but we need Caruso healthy for this team to go anywhere. The dude's humongous off the bench, as we don't really have that much bench depth, and he's also been part of a lot of the closing lineups. So we need Caruso to get healthy. So I want to make sure that he is fully healthy before he returns. And hopefully he doesn't deal with any more of this. This would be annoying if he has to continue dealing with these little nagging injuries for the rest of the season. But hopefully he doesn't have to deal with that. And hopefully this is just a one-time thing with his foot. So hopefully he can get back soon. And Derrick Jones Jr. is the other person. He's dealing with the hamstring injury. He got out of protocol. And in a game against the Lakers, he slipped and fell and clearly hurt his hamstring. It's said to not be too serious. But he's also a big part of this team right now because we don't have much depth and we need people that can play at the four or both forwards positions. So hopefully he can come back really soon. It sounds like he's going to be back very quickly, so that's a good sign. But hopefully the hamstring is not going to be an issue moving forward. So that's kind of the update with the players' health, is that now no one's in health and safety protocol, but we just had these two guys dealing with injuries and they did not practice the other day. But it's funny because it's like, everyone's back, and then we see this happen. Billy Donovan goes into health and safety protocol. So everyone's feeling all good yesterday, and then the news comes out today. So it's unfortunate for the Bulls, but at least the players are healthy, and that's a really good sign. I just hope that COVID is no more for this team, because we went through our share of problems with COVID. But to deal with the COVID issues, the Bulls, on the 23rd, I guess, or maybe it was even before this, they signed Ersan Ilyasova and not McClurg, to 10-day contracts. And this is because of the new rules that the NBA and NBPA agreed to, that if you have a certain amount of players go into COVID protocol, you're required to sign guys with the hardship exception, which is now available to you if you have two players go into health and safety protocols. So basically the rule is that if you have two players going to health and safety protocols, you're immediately eligible for a hardship exception to sign someone to a 10-day contract. So you're required to sign one person. If you have three people going to health and safety protocols, you're required to sign two, and so on and so forth, right? And the Bulls had all these guys out, like Levine, Ayo, Elijah Johnson, Troy Brown Jr. And then, so the Bulls were kind of required, once this rule was implemented, to sign some of these guys. But as you see, these guys are back. Everyone's out of health and safety protocols. So it's kind of unfortunate timing for these two. Ersan Ilyasova is, he's a vet. There has been some history with him in the Bulls, unfortunately. But, he's a power forward / I guess can play a little bit of center. But the main thing I know Ersan Ilyasova for is taking charges and flopping. So, it's kind of unfortunate because we're not going to see probably either of these guys play. But, I kind of wish we did, because we do need that, some depth at the power forward position. I think Ilyasova can definitely provide that. But I don't know where he is in terms of his health and how well he's playing. So, unfortunately, we're probably not going to see either of these guys play unless our team gets a bunch of injuries all of a sudden, or a bunch of our guys go into health and safety protocols again. But, people are kind of asking, like, okay, well, everyone's back now, so what happens to these two guys? So there's been a new thing added to this hardship rule, and Bobby Marks explains it right here. So he says that a replacement player, that is signed to that 10-day contract, they can be put on an inactive list. And, usually every team has like an inactive list for every game, right, if everyone's healthy. So this is probably what's going to happen to these two guys here, is that they're going to be put onto an inactive list. So they're going to be able to get their, they're going to be able to finish their 10-day contract. They're going to get their money from that, but they're just going to be on that inactive list. This, basically just is explaining that this would allow the team to avoid signing another hardship player if another positive case arises with a different player. Because what would suck is if, let's say you sign someone to a 10-day contract, and then all your guys come back all of a sudden, and then you have to cut that person, but then all of a sudden someone else gets test positive for COVID, and then they're out. It would really suck. Then you have to go out and sign another person, right? So this is good, just so that you can just keep these guys on their 10-day contracts, and obviously once they're done, right? But it allows for GMs not to have to scramble so much as we've seen a lot of recently. So this is good to just know that guys can just kind of stay on the team if, let's say, everyone kind of returns from health and safety protocols. But this is a new thing going on. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to see either of these guys play for this Bulls team. I know a lot of people like this dude. I don't really know too much about him. I watched some of his G League stuff. He's a pretty good passer. I think he's actually really smart at the passing, but that's all I really know about him, unfortunately. So we're not going to be able to see him, unfortunately. So that's kind of some of the news about the Bulls signing some 10-day guys, and for the rest of the league as well. But one guy that is currently on a 10-day contract, he recently just signed his second 10-day contract before the Rockets game, was Alfonso McKinnie. And Alfonso McKinnie was one of the first guys that we signed to a 10-day contract when we had all the COVID issues. And unfortunately, with all the COVID issues, some of our games got postponed. I'll get to that in a second here. But Alfonso McKinnie's been only able to play in 3 games, if I'm remembering correctly. His first game was against Miami, and then most recently against the Lakers and the Rockets. And, honestly, I think he's played pretty well in all 3 games, but most notably that Rockets game, he played incredibly well. And I think moving forward, the Bulls are going to have to make a decision here. A lot of people have been calling we should sign McKinnie, and honestly, I'm in agreement with that. He's on that second 10-day contract, so he's we're not able to get signed to a contract, a real contract, until a little bit later here. But he's played really well for this Bulls team, and for a team that needs length on the perimeter, and guys that can play both forward positions, McKinnie kind of provides that. Now, I know he's kind of skinny. He's only 215, but he's also 6'7", has incredible length, and can definitely play the 3 or the 4. Other thing is that he brings the shooting. Now, I know a lot of Warriors fans are not too happy with McKinnie because he played in the 2019 finals and he didn't play too well, but that's the 2019 finals. We're not worried about that right now. We need guys that can help right now, and I think McKinnie could definitely provide that. So the person that's kind of on the cusp right now that we could potentially waive and then sign McKinnie with his spot is Matt Thomas. And Matt Thomas was the last person to make the team. He signed an Exhibit 9 contract, not Exhibit 10, Exhibit 9 contract in the preseason. So he was able to be on the preseason. He made the cut for the regular season, but the thing is that Matt Thomas is on a non-guaranteed deal, and I don't think his deal becomes guaranteed until January 10th. Once it hits January 10th, then I think his deal becomes guaranteed. So right now, the Bulls can waive Matt Thomas, and his deal is non-guaranteed, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm not 100% sure. But either way, though, I think it's probably worth it if you're Karnisovas, because you're still kind of looking for people to help this team right now. And right now, we're missing forward depth. So signing a guy like Alfonso McKinnie for the rest of the season, and he's already proven that he can play with these guys very effectively, and Billy Donovan actually trusts them a lot, it might be worth it. I know that the trade deadline and the waiver deadline and all that stuff is definitely a thing, and maybe that's the reason why you keep Matt Thomas and then potentially waive him later. But honestly, I think you kind of have to go with what you have right now, because there is no guarantee that you can get somebody to fill in that forward spot moving forward at the trade deadline or the waiver deadline. So I think this might be worth it. It'll be interesting to see what the Bulls do. It's unfortunate for Matt Thomas because once he finally got a chance to play, he went into health and safety protocol. So it's unfortunate timing for him, but I think it might be time for the Bulls to sign this dude because he's played really, really well, and he's, a hometown product. So I'm really happy for him. He's played well in the G League. He's played well with his limited time with the Bulls. It might be worth it. So there's that. Other news, just kind of going over some of the game stuff here. Bulls and Raptors have been postponed. They were supposed to play on the 22nd. Unfortunately, that game got postponed because the Raptors they came to Chicago with the minimum amount of players, and then OG Anunoby tested positive, so they were at 7 players at that point. So game had to be postponed. So now this is interesting because now, as you see what Casey Johnson just said right here, the Bulls have to make up 2 games against the Raptors now, and I don't know how the NBA is going to be doing this with all these postponements. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets, for example, have postponed, I think, 3 games now. So it's going to be interesting how the NBA is going to fill in these postponed games because we have to make them up at some point, right? So, I personally think that the NBA could be like, let's just move the playoffs back a week or something. There is always a little bit of gap between the end of the regular season and the start of the playoffs, so maybe that's the time you use to make up games. But I don't know what the NBA is going to be doing with this because the last thing we want to see is a bunch of back-to-backs or a back-to-back-to-back at the end of the regular season and guys getting injured. We do not want to see that. So hopefully the NBA figures that out. But the Bulls now have to make up Raptors, 2 Raptors games. And I forget the other team that we postponed. But it's going to be rough at the end of the season trying to make up these games because it's going to be, a lot of back-to-backs or, off days that we should have had, and then, we have to play a game instead. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bulls figure all that out. But let's talk about the last 2 games. So the Bulls' first games since the postponements was the first game back was against the Lakers at the United Center. And this was a very interesting game already because 1, LeBron, is here, but 2, with the Lakers, AD is officially out. In the previous game they played it, which is against the Timberwolves, Anthony Davis got hurt and he has a sprain, I think MCL, I'm not sure which one it was, but he is out for a while. So, the Lakers, now knowing that they're not going to have Anthony Davis for a bit, they're kind of trying to figure things out. And for the Bulls, this is their first game back in like 8 days, 9 days. So it was interesting to see how this Bulls team was going to respond to being off for so long. And then also the guys that were in COVID protocol, how are they going to play? And I think we kind of got our answer in this game. I mean, DeMar DeRozan had a phenomenal game. As you see here, he had 38 points. He hit the go-ahead bucket over LeBron in crunch time. And, this is just so nice to see that, like, we have DeMar DeRozan to, play, be that person in crunch time. I mean, I honestly think him and Zach in crunch time together is really, really dynamic. It's like you cannot guard the Bulls easily. And it's also just good to know that everyone understands, like, okay, once it hits crunch time, you give it to those 2 guys, let Vucevic set the screen, everyone else get out of the way, trust these 3 guys to do their job. And that just makes the game much more simpler for this entire team. And, obviously in this game, it was only DeRozan and Vucevic, so it's a little bit tougher. But DeRozan was phenomenal in that fourth quarter yet again. And honestly, if he wasn't, if he didn't have to go into protocol, he probably is leading the fourth quarter points by a large margin. He's still leading in that department in points per game, but he has just been phenomenal all season, and especially in that fourth quarter. It is just awesome to see. But the Bulls, I thought, played a very good first half in this game, but then the second half was a little but this was a tight game. And the fourth quarter was a bunch of trading buckets. It was really, really awesome to see. Melo had a really good game, and he hit a couple big threes. But this Bulls team ended up pulling it out thanks to DeMar DeRozan's heroics down the stretch. So, crazy game, but Bulls got the win in this one. And then the Houston Rockets game was actually really, really awesome to see as well. We lost this team when they were 1-15, 1-16, right? And that was bad. That was that I would still say that's the worst loss of the season because we should have won that game. But the Rockets, they shot incredible from the 3-point line in that game. It was just crazy. And then that loss didn't look so bad after we started their winning streak when they won like 8 straight, right? So we need to definitely get revenge on them. And we did that. I know the score kind of looks a little bit closer than it actually, the entire game was. We had, I think a 25-point lead at one point. But this game was big because this was a back-to-back. So we just played a really tough game against the Lakers, and then you have to play this game. And it's not easy to do that, right? So I was kind of looking to see how our guys are going to play, and, do they have their legs underneath them? Especially for the guys that are just coming out of protocol. That's kind of tough where you're not playing for a while, you're in protocol, trying to get your conditioning back, you play a hard game against the Lakers, and then you have to play a back-to-back against the Rockets. At least you didn't have to travel, but that's tough. But in this game, man, the bench had an incredible game. Unfortunately, can't see the numbers here, but the bench had a very good game. Alfonso McKinnie had I think 16 points, hit a bunch of threes. Kobe White had by far his best game of the season, so maybe this is a start for him to get going. But, I mean, I'm looking at guys like Tyler Cook, Devon Dotson. Tony Bradley even had a good game off the bench. Everyone contributed in this game, and I was really happy overall how the Bulls started this game and then how everyone else played. Because you saw early in this game, the Rockets play extremely small, and they're willing to switch everything. So Vucevic was able to take advantage of some mismatches in the paint. And once we established the paint, then the 3-point line started to come along. And it was just really good to see the Bulls play it right. Obviously, DeRozan was fantastic again, but the bench man was just phenomenal all game, and that's all you can really ask for, right? And it's gonna be interesting to see what the Bulls do moving forward. Because I was actually looking forward to that Raptors game to see what Billy Donovan is going to use, in terms of bench players. But Tyler Cook, man, I know he didn't shoot a lot of shots, but he got to the free throw line I think 8 times, or shot 8 free throws. So he is incredible at playing that baseline, and for a guy that's bigger, he can definitely help this Bulls team moving forward. Now, Tyler Cook is on a 2-way contract, but most recently, due to all the COVID issues, the players on 2-way contracts, they don't have that limited 45 days in the NBA anymore. They're able to stay on that team the entire season. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bulls, use their rotations moving forward, because a guy like Tyler Cook that can rebound, defend pretty decently, but also provide that inside impact, playing that baseline, can score on the inside. He has some pretty good athleticism as well. He could actually become very, very important down the stretch here, because we're still looking for that, 4 player. I love Javonte Green, but having a guy at 6'4" play your starting power forward is not going to cut it. So it's going to be interesting to see what Donovan and the rest of the coaching staff decides to do with Tyler Cook and some of these other bench players moving forward. But I'm forgetting who the first game that the Bulls had to get postponed for. I'm really, really annoyed with myself right now. Let's see. It was against Detroit. That's who it was. So Bulls have to make up 2 games against the Raptors, 1 in Scotiabank Arena, and obviously 1 against Detroit. The other Raptors game is going to be at home. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bulls, or how the NBA decides to do all that. And hopefully they do it right. I don't want any of our players getting hurt moving forward. But looking ahead here, the Bulls play Indiana right after Christmas. So tune into that game. This is a big game because, as we remember, the Bulls got destroyed by Indiana because that was their first game off the West Coast trip. And the Bulls were clearly exhausted. And I wasn't expecting a lot from that game. But we saw that the size of Indiana, because they play basically 2 centers at the starting lineup with Sabonis and Turner, it killed the Bulls. So this is going to be definitely a test. Now that everyone's back, Levine's back, we have our entire starting lineup. This is going to be a big game. So I'm looking for this Bulls team to come out and play well, take advantage of mismatches, and hopefully everyone is going to start getting the rhythm back, because a lot of guys were out. We got everyone back. And now it's time to really, we're still second in the conference, so that's really good. So it's time to extend that winning streak right now and get a lot of wins, and hopefully, continue being at the top of the conference for the rest of the season. So that's all I have for you guys in this long, lengthy recap of what's happened for the Bulls in the last week or so. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Looking forward to this game and also this Atlanta game. Hopefully Trae Young is back for that game. But I'll see you guys in the next one.